Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where we are finally back. And when I say finally back, I mean myself, we're back streaming. And more importantly, Manchester United are back. The international break, a long, dull, dreary, boring international break, is finally over. And Manchester United are about to be back in action. Now, normally today we would be doing a tactical preview. It's a Friday, United play this weekend. But we don't actually play until Monday. So we're doing a slight restructuring to what we would normally do. Today is sort of our potentially final opportunity before the end of the year to catch up and talk about everything United, because after that the games sort of start coming quite thick and fast. So today is going to be a sort of breakdown on what you guys want to see next from United. We know that we're 5 matches unbeaten. We know that we've got a couple of injury problems. Soon we're going to have international football starting to interfere with United, really. So I want to discuss what you guys want to see from United over the next 6 weeks or so, how we can expect United to evolve, different players you want to see, and different ideas about how United can play. And then Monday morning, a little bit different to normal, Monday morning we will then be doing another live stream where we will be looking ahead to the game against Everton. So if that is good with you guys, that is the plan today. To reflect on the season so far and what United have been doing, how we've started the season, and to start to speculate about what might be to come. And really importantly, I want to hear from you guys your thoughts of what you want to see. Are there different tactical ideas that you would like to see coming into play at United? We know over the past 6 weeks or so, we've been a more direct team. Do you want to see that continued? And if so, how can we get better? Or do you want to see something a little bit different? Do you want to see a change, a new brand of football starting to take place? That is a question for you guys to answer in the chat today. And of course, I will always give my thoughts and opinions as well. Before we get into any of that though, I want to hear from you guys and just how you are and also how you're feeling about United. We haven't caught up in a week now. It's a week since we last spoke. A lot has happened in the world of football and also just the world in general. So let me know how you're doing. Let me know how life is treating you. And also how you're feeling about United. And are you excited for us to finally be back? Because this weekend we do finally return to Old Trafford. It feels like a long time since we saw United play at Old Trafford. It's been, I don't know how many weeks it's been, but it feels like a lot of weeks. We're finally going to be back on Monday. So how are you feeling? And yeah, basically, what are you wanting to see from United over the next few weeks? That's basically what I want to discuss today. In terms of the season we've had so far, it's been a bit of a mixed one. You know, the results have been a little bit up and down. We started very poorly. I don't think anyone will deny that. Perhaps some of the performances deserved better results, for example, against Arsenal. But largely, it was a very weird start to the season. But recently, it has settled a little bit. There's less drama. And we've got ourselves into a wonderful position. I mentioned this yesterday in the video. United are in a position where, should we recruit in January, United have a fantastic opportunity to secure Champions League football for next season. Now, whether or not we will sign someone, I'm not so sure. But I think the opportunity is there for United to go on and have actually a very good year. We currently sit just 1 point off the top 4. If you offered me that after 11 game weeks, you know, at the start of the season, I would have absolutely taken that. Because for me, that's where United should be, around 4th, 5th or 6th. So we're in a great position and we've got some, you know, winnable fixtures coming up. I don't want to be disrespectful to any of the teams that we're facing. I don't want to go overboard here. But I look at those next 5 and I think there's a chance that we can get some points on the board. I look at the next 10 and we don't play a side in the traditional Big 6. So I think there's really an opportunity now for United to continue some momentum, to extend that unbeaten run. The question is, how do you actually want to see us doing that? I just heard Pep say the season actually starts now, the January window and all these months till next break, same for us. Yeah, I think what we tend to see is, I always feel around game week 12, 13, 14 is where we start to see the league settling. The table starts to settle. And I think that's where you get a better idea of where you actually are. So if we look at this, I think in 2 or 3 weeks, the league will start to separate just a little bit. It's very compact right now. I think it will start to separate a little bit. And we'll actually have a rough idea of how good United are, whereabouts we are in the league, and what we're going to be competing for this season. I think we'll see that sort of emerge over the next few weeks. Do you think we will sign anyone in January? I think all the talks seem to be that, if an opportunity arises, we will go for it. It doesn't seem like we're going to go sign like an Elliot Addison, for example, which, I don't really think any of us expect. But I think if someone pops up a lot cheaper than what they would normally be, then we might go for it. It's why Semenyo sort of makes sense, because we know that we've wanted him for a long time. He's a little bit cheaper at the moment, so maybe we might go and do that sort of signing. Maybe João Gomez, who, Wolves are in trouble. You can see them at the bottom of the table there. Maybe you can go and get them now. I get a feeling we might see one player come in. If I was, I don't have any inside knowledge or any inside sources or anything like that. But if I was to guess, I think we might see one player come in, whether that's permanent or on loan. I'm not too sure. No Šeško. Yeah, a little bit sad. And that's definitely one of the conversations we need to have today. How do we deal with that? How can we replace him as such? Who's going to come into the team up front, and how will that affect the dynamic of our attack? Because weirdly, there's almost like 4 or 5 different ways we could approach this, and obviously that warrants quite a big conversation. I want us to control our game in the second half better. No need to sit back that much. I think that's something that Amorim has been talking about, right? The fact that United seem to drop off in the second half, and he made a comment which I liked, and I hope he truly means it. He said, when United go 1-0 up, there seems to be this mindset of let's protect our goal, but what he wants to see is let's go get a second goal. And I want to believe him. I want that to be true. I'm hoping that is the case, because that's how United should be. I'm always of the opinion that we should be on the front foot, we should be dominant, we should be attacking teams, and I think that's part of it. Also, by the way, guys, we have to look at Callum in the chat with the 24-month membership. I think he might be the first person to hit 24 months. Of course, 2 years. New badge for Callum. Callum, thank you as always for the support. For those of you that don't know, Callum is actually my brother. So it's quite funny that he's got to pay a membership for my channel. So mock him if you will. Enjoy. What do you think about a lot of our coming games being on a Monday? It sucks, to be honest. I don't know if we've got it on the thing here. Yeah, so we've got 3 Monday games in our next 5, and we've also got a Thursday in there as well, which is just kind of miserable. Like, we don't play on a Saturday. And I don't know, is it that big a deal? Perhaps not. But for me personally, I like to sit there at the weekend and watch United, maybe ruin my weekend, maybe make my weekend a lot better. But yeah, it is kind of disappointing that we're not going to have that. Now, in December, we do often see fixtures get chopped about a lot, so there could be changes there. It might switch. But yeah, I don't know. Does it give us a slight disadvantage because players aren't as in much of a routine as what they would be at the weekend? I'm not so sure. I'd love to see Kobe, but looks like he is not going to play. Maybe Mount and Xerxes can get themselves more time. So that's another one of the conversations that I want to have today about these two. Because so far this season, like I said, it's been a relatively good start to the campaign in terms of points on the board. Are these two going to get their chance to come in? I don't know. We've got the African Cup of Nations coming up quite soon, which might give some different players an opportunity. We've also got the Šeško problem. Maybe one of the solutions does involve Xerxes coming in up front, or a reshuffle which sees Kobe coming in the midfield. These are things that can happen. So, should we start with this Šeško replacement conversation? Because there's a few different ways that you can approach this, and Max has just asked about this in the chat. So one option is you could go Xerxes. You've asked, can Xerxes replace Šeško? He absolutely can, because he's a striker. What we've got to remember is he's not like for like. And I think if we look at any of the options that we've got now, none of them are like for like with Šeško. None of them profile quite in the way that Šeško does. So I think Cunha could do a job up front. We've seen him play, 4, 5, 6 times there now for United. He can absolutely do a job up front. And if I was to guess, I would suggest it might be him that comes in. Xerxes up front is an option because he's a striker. He can play as a false 9. If you get runners around him, that could work. It's a position that he's used to playing. And Mbeumo is an interesting one. We've seen him play there for Brentford before. Not that much, but he has had a slight spell up front. We know that he's a goal scorer, United's top scorer so far this season. He's a man that plays on the last line, on the shoulder, wants to cause problems in behind the defence. Maybe you could push Mbeumo into that striker spot. And then there is Mason Mount, which might feel like a bit of an outside shout. Why would Mount come in up front? He's not a striker. I know, I get it. But false 9? false nine. It feels like we're always trying to find a way for Mount to get into the team. I think Mount, is a good player. He presses well. I think as fans, we appreciate a lot of what he does at the moment. Is this a way to get him into the team without disrupting everything else? Cunha can play his best role on the left, and Mbeumo can play his best role on the right. Mount squeezes in between them up front, plays as a false nine. Maybe that's something that we could do. I would love to hear from you guys what you think that the best route for us to take is. Because always, when we try and solve this problem, when we try and fill this gap, it is going to have a knock-on effect to the players around it, right? If you move Cunha there, well, now we've got to find someone left 10. If you put Mbeumo there, we've now got to find a different solution. Xerxes, okay, how do players work around him? So we need to figure out who we want up front, and then we need to figure out how that's going to affect players around him, and how we can sort of build with that dynamic. David, good morning to you, mate, in the chat with a gifted membership as always. Thank you very much, guys. You know what to do. Chad Callum and Son have beat me to it already. Lots of love hearts in the chat. The second you see anyone giving super chats, renewing memberships, gifting memberships, anything like that. Same for Callum as well earlier with his 2-year membership. Make sure to show a load of love to those supporters, because it's people like that that keep the channel going. Also, good morning to everyone that is just joining. Max asks, what is a false nine? It's a great question. It's a woke nonsense term, right? If you went back to the 60s and said we're playing a false nine, everyone would look at you and go, what? A false nine is a striker. It's a player that leads the line. But the reason they're false, or called false, is because they don't do what typical strikers do. So normally we expect strikers to be goal scorers, to be players that play in the box, that sort of apply the finishing touch a little bit. They play up here, they put the ball in the back of the net, they run the channels, they get in behind and do all of those things. When we talk about a false nine, they start in the same initial position up here as the most advanced player, but they play a little bit differently, right? Rather than going this way and scoring lots of goals, they tend to come this way a little bit more. Xerxes fits that perfectly. It's the player that wants to drop a little bit deeper, wants to come towards the ball, wants to get touches in here, and needs runners around them. Why might you do this? Potentially it's a way to overload the opposition's midfield. When you drop a striker deeper, it gives you an extra midfield number. It's a way of sort of securing in these positions, really, getting that extra number in there. So that's sort of, a quick rundown of what a false nine is. Cunha is also sort of a false nine. Sometimes you'll see the term a 9.5 as well, which is another weird term. It's pretty much the same thing. That player who starts up here, but sort of drops off. And that's what Xerxes would bring. We're used to Sesko, if I can find him, here he is. We used to see Sesko playing on the last line, sort of roughing up centre-backs. Xerxes is not that sort of player. Xerxes is going to do something very different, which means for Xerxes to play, the players around him will have to operate differently. Cunha is used to, when he plays in the left 10, having space because Sesko makes the run, and that can drag defenders. So Cunha then has more room to work with, or it might be Mount here as well. If we go Xerxes up front, it does sort of shift everything about a little bit, because Xerxes now comes towards the ball, which compacts the pitch, which brings everyone closer. So as Xerxes comes towards, these defenders come with him, which might reduce some of Cunha's room a little bit. That's when someone like Mbeumo is important, those runs in behind. But is that enough? Is that enough? Having one player stretching in behind, making that run, is that enough for United to trouble the opposition? Or do we have to find a different way of operating? We've seen Mbeumo on the left against Spurs before the international break. Maybe there's something that we could do there. For example, could you go, let's imagine, I don't know, Xerxes is the striker. Could you go Mbeumo left, maybe Ahmad on the right? Would these two offer more runs off the ball? Possibly. I'd like to see one of Mbeumo or Cunha up top, Bruno in one of the 10s, and Kobe coming into the midfield. Yeah, so Chad, that is one of the solutions that I like. For a couple of reasons, it gets Bruno higher, and it gets Kobe into the team, which I will always look for. I quite like the idea of trying to explore that solution. The question again would be the number of runners, though. Let's take Xerxes out. Let's put Cunha in the 10. Let's go Ahmad wing back, Mbeumo over here. The point Chad is making here is that it could allow Bruno to move further forward into that left 10 zone. That's typically where he's been best in his career, right? That's where Bruno Fernandes' best football has come. He's an attacker, he's a creator, he's a goal scorer. This season, in a sense, we've limited him, I think, by playing him deeper. it's not his best position, although I think he's done a very good job. Is this now the moment where you can bump him a little bit higher and get him in a more creative role, a more free role? And, like you said, it does allow Kobbie Mainoo to come into midfield, which gives United a different skill set, a different tool, a different attribute in the team, and a different way of playing, potentially. Maybe. Again, the question would be, does that leave us with a lack of runners, though? Bruno's best when he's got people to find. Would there be enough people in that forward line for Bruno to move the ball forward too? I'm not sure. And if not, is there a different solution that we can use? Could Ahmad go to left wing back, for example, and we get a Dallo on the right hand side to be that little bit more attacking down both sides? I don't know. It's a tricky one. Sesko was signed for a reason. He was signed to be our starting striker this season, and losing that is a bit of a problem. I think it is. Can we play with Mbeumo left 10, Ahmad right 10, Cunha in the 9? Where is he? I'll just put him there. Sorry, Ahmad right 10, Cunha 9. There we go. And then Dorgu and Mazraoui as the wing backs. I think we could. The concern for me, if we were to go for this sort of team, would be just having enough attacking personnel on the pitch. I think almost against more difficult opposition this could work. But I think if we look at the fixtures we've got coming up, my voice is waving all over the place. If we look at the games we've got coming up, I think we are expecting a bit more dominance. Everton at Old Trafford, you would expect United to be the team on the ball. Does Dorgu and Mazraoui at wing back give you enough creativity? Because there's a couple of teams in here, right? If you look at West Ham as well, and I think Wolves, teams that might sit behind the ball and play quite deep. The concern for me would be, do these wide players give us enough in terms of 1-versus-1 ability and breaking a team down, crosses into the box? Do they give us quite enough, or perhaps not? Not sure. Whilst I think Acuna and Mbeumo mount a striker would be better, Xerxes needs a chance for long-term possibilities. Yeah, so Alex, I've made a similar comment recently about Xerxes. It feels like it's kind of make or break time for him, and I don't mean the way he plays, I just mean whether he plays. If I'm Xerxes and I still don't get a chance in the next 6 weeks, I'm packing my bags and leaving. Because, if he can't get into the team with no Sesko, soon to be no Mbeumo and no Ahmad, I'd be like, well, what's the point in me being here? I'm never going to play. So it is sort of time for Xerxes to make something of his United career in the next 6 weeks, or certainly to be given the opportunity to, or just wrap it up and call it a day because we're wasting everyone's time. So I think it's a big moment for Xerxes in his United career and his footballing career in general, to be honest. I quite like the idea of Dorgu being one of the runners from the wide left position. I think he's shown he's quite good at that third man run. I think his sort of power down the left side is really useful. He's not always at his best when he's dribbling, when he's got the ball at his feet and is taking people on. But I think you're right. With a bit of room to run into, he's a very, very useful player. A very useful player. As you build one side, you look for the switch. Dorgu is nice. He's nice to have there. The problem is just the final delivery, right? He doesn't then give us that spark. So I think his threat is there. There's a lot of promise. But we're lacking that end product a little bit. We are lacking that. And again, I think it depends on who we're playing. And a lot of the games we've got coming up, you're expecting deeper opposition. So that room to run into is reduced a little bit. He's a bit more stationary. He's almost starting in this position. And that's when you need a different skill set that Dorgu can provide in moments. But I don't think he does it quite as regularly, as reliably as what we would like. I also think it's an interesting group of fixtures for that back three as well. We've seen, I think Shaw and De Ligt have started every Premier League match so far. And then Yoro has rotated with Maguire. If we look at those games, it's going to be interesting to see how we approach it. Because set pieces are bigger than ever right now. And you look at Everton under David Moyes, always going to be a good set piece side. They've got a lot of big defenders. But do you want to see Harry Maguire starting a game at Old Trafford? And I don't mean any disrespect by that, but we know the approach we get when Maguire plays, right? It's almost Lenny Yoro plays. Okay, we're going to be a bit more expansive. We're going to press high. Maguire plays. We're going to be a little bit more cautious and we're going to sit a bit deeper. I think at Old Trafford, we want that front-footed approach. So I'm hoping over the next 3, 4, 5 games, we start to see Lenny Yoro sort of re-cementing that place on the right side of defence as his own. I think De Ligt's done a fantastic job of leading the backline this season. I think it's time for this trio to be the trio that we are using. Of course, there is also a certain man called Lisandro Martinez who will have something to say about all of that, because I think he'll be back fairly soon. If we want to play Xerxes, I still think we can go long, because our focus is more on the second balls and he can play better in that area with less room and space, I believe. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Xerxes could be used for long ball football. He's not a target man, Xerxes. He's not, someone who battles and bruises with the centre-backs. But I think his presence alone is quite a good one. He's quite a tall player. His control is very good. His hold-up play is quite good. So he could be used as a focal point. But as you point out also, the second ball is just as important. And Xerxes is probably a player that can play on that second ball. So, yeah, I think it can still work. I don't think it'll be as effective as when Šeško was in there. But I think with other people, Cunha included, we can still do it. I think it's a possibility for us. But I don't necessarily want us to. Right? I don't know that I want to watch United at Old Trafford pumping the ball on. I think I want to see a more proactive approach on the ball if possible. Maguire is better than any of our defenders other than De Ligt. Stats don't lie. De Ligt over Maguire, over Shaw, over Heaven, over Yoro statistically. Yoro is massively overrated for me. First of all, on the statistical front, stats don't lie. It's an interesting term. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not, which suggests sometimes they do lie. I think context is very important to any data that you ever find in football. For example, Heaven being over Euro statistically, look at the sample size. That's always going to have a massive effect. I think the comment with Maguire is a stylistic one rather than one of quality. You can ask the people that have been around on the channel for a long time. Ask your Chads, ask your Callums, your Davids. They will tell you that I love Harry Maguire. I think he's a great footballer. He's, for a certain type of game, I think he's amazing. I'm a big fan of him, even when the world sort of hated him. I've always quite liked him. But I think you will agree that there's a style of game that he suits. If you want high pressing, if you want high intensity, lots of speed, lots of covering ground and things like that, lots of mobility, lots of playing on the ball in the first phase, showing agility and awareness and things like that, Maguire struggles. He's not as good as some of the other options in that sort of game. If we want to defend, if we want to play deep and head balls away, sure, I think Maguire is amazing. I think he's lovely for it. But I think if we want to be that team that gets the ball out from the back a little bit more, plays a little bit higher, I think you'll understand that Maguire's not as suited. Let's say, right, you're a dominant team. Normally when we see teams dominating the ball, it means they're going to be high up the pitch. It means they're going to have lots of numbers committed forward because you're trying to break down the opposition. So let's say the opposition have got, 4 defenders quite narrow. Then they've got that bank of 5 in front of them. You're trying to find a way through. When you're trying to find a way through, a lot of teams are going to commit players higher. So your wing backs go high. You'll see your forwards. We've got too many, but you'll see your forwards go high. Perhaps one of your midfielders go high as well. If all of them are doing that, I think the rest of the team has to come with them. The rest of the team has to come with them because your team always needs to be compact and connected. Does Maguire suit playing this high? And this high is a consequence of playing dominant, proactive football. Probably not. As good as he is, he probably doesn't suit this style as much. When he plays in the middle, he just gives himself that extra couple of yards head start to the opposition. And that makes quite a difference. That's when gaps can start to form a little bit. So I don't think currently he suits what I would like United to be. But that doesn't mean just because I want it, that doesn't mean Amorim's going to go that way. But it's what I would like to see. If we do play long, I think Xerxes' touch could actually help the second ball even more. I think there's a good moment for Xerxes where he can be effective. We saw Cunha against Liverpool doing something similar. Now, Cunha's a bit more aggressive with the way that he plays, a bit more direct, a bit more robust, of course. But I think Xerxes is a bit more elegant, a bit more subtle on the ball. And I think there's some games where we will need that. The problem is, I don't know if it's this group of games. I don't know if it's this set of fixtures which works for him. AJ, there was a comment from Amorim after the last match before the break that in future our centre-backs will control the game much better. I want you to explain the idea more behind saying that. That's a great comment to raise. That might be something that needs a video of its own. Perhaps we'll see how things change when Lisandro Martinez comes back in. If United are doing things a little bit differently, how Yoro plays, if he plays, we might have to delegate a full video to that, because it is a great point that you raise. It's a great comment, because it's really interesting from Amorim, because at the moment they don't. We mentioned it briefly with Lisandro Martinez in the video we did the other day. We talked about tempo. Sometimes I think we view tempo as speeding it up, and we probably do that too much. We think of tempo, we think of fast, but a slow tempo is possible as well. And I think that's what Amorim wants. I think he wants centre-backs that can do both, that can slow it down when it's needed. Sometimes our team can be a little bit chaotic, right? And we need that calm at the back to put their foot on the ball, slow it down. We need that sometimes. Sometimes we need someone to inject something into the team. Sometimes we need the ability to up the tempo, to up the pace, to play a little bit quicker. And again, I think he wants that from the centre-backs. I think Lisandro Martinez will be someone that can do that. I think Shaw can do it more than what he does currently. And Yoro and De Ligt are sort of still in the early days of developing that. So I think that's what he wants, that ability to slow, to go fast, to dictate how we're playing. If we want to play long, the centre-backs lead that. If we want to play short, the centre-backs lead that. And so on. Even with how high we play and things like that. So we're not there yet. You know, I think at the moment we're not settled enough to be there. We're not settled enough to be led by our centre-backs. We also perhaps lack the profiles. You know, out of these three, only Lisandro Martinez is elite on the ball. You know, he's the only one that's top quality. So I think it's something that we're working towards. Can you not adapt though? Play a mid-block and force teams to push up more, pull them out of a low block? And is that in sort of reference to the conversation about Maguire? Is that what you're talking about there? I think you can. But some of it is dependent on the opposition. There are some matches that you will go to, right? There are some games you will go and you're just like, a team is just going to park the bus. And they refuse to press you. They refuse to take the bait. They do just sit in their block. There's only so much sort of enticing that you can do with that, right? Sometimes you just got to go, all right, we're going to camp, we're going to suffocate you, we're going to find a way through. So I think it depends on the opposition. I think there are some games where, yeah, you probably can bait it a little bit more. You can draw the opposition out a little bit more. But then I think there's others where if the opposition don't want to bite, they're not going to bite. And it's your job to break them down. The tactics board is giving me Licha to Ahmad flashbacks. Let's have a look at the tactics board. We made this comment the other day, right? I don't know if you've seen the video or not. But Lisandro Martinez, one of our best ball players at the club, is yet to play with any of our new signings. And you think soon, Mbeumo and Cunha with Lisandro Martinez, there can be some nice partnerships there. Because let's put Šeško up front just for the moment, right? Lisandro Martinez passing to Cunha could be great because Lisandro Martinez is understanding. He is someone that controls tempo and draws people out and things like that. I think that could be an amazing dynamic because Cunha in the half space with room to turn and carry is phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to that. And you talk about the ball to Ahmad. Imagine the ball to Mbeumo because Mbeumo is relentless with that run off the ball. Ahmad does it, you know, somewhat, but I think Mbeumo does it more. Mbeumo's constantly running in behind. That could be a lot of fun. There is a ball that is certainly going to be on for us there, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. I'm looking forward to it. Partially, I think we kind of saw this at Forest. We all expected Dyche to park the bus. Yeah, and that's an interesting point. Was that us inviting Forest onto us? Was that our choice? Or was that Forest overwhelming us a little bit? And sometimes that's difficult to gauge, I guess, because we don't know Amorim's plan pre-match. You know, did he set up to try and break down a block and Forest didn't do it? Or did we try and draw Forest out? Probably needs a rewatch to really determine that. Where does Mount fit into all of this? I want to see more of him, says David. I agree. I agree. I think he had a fantastic start to the season. Fantastic start to the season, Mount. You guys know I'm a big fan. You know, he's a great player. Bit of a wind turbine. Big fan. The intensity he brought at the start of the season is fantastic. We know that if we want to press, you can't get better than Mount. As far as intelligent but also intense footballers go, I don't think you can get anyone better. He's happy to sacrifice himself for the team. He then picked up that knock. He got a slight injury and just fell out of the team. Others came in, and he hasn't really worked his way back in yet. When I thought he would. I thought he would a little bit quicker. Now, I don't know if that's because, others are performing and that's kept him out. Whether Amorim doesn't quite want him in a certain type of game that we faced recently, or if he has had like more of a physical issue than we thought. Perhaps the knock has been worse than we expected. There were a couple of games where I expected him to come on as a sub and he didn't. And maybe that's because the injury was worse than what we suspected. In terms of how do you get him in, now is the moment, right? Now is the moment. Sesko is out for, I don't know how long. There's been a lot of ups and downs. 1 minute it's 3 months, the next is 3 weeks. I'm expecting around a month would be my guess. There is a moment now where you could bring Mount into the team. There is a moment where you can get him into the side and in his best position in that left 10. I think he's another one that would suit playing with Licher on the left. I think Mount on the half turn on the back foot is really good. Really, really good. So that could work quite nicely. The concern we've always got is there's no winger. There's no winger. I just want wingers at United. That's all I want. Exciting 1-versus-1 players, explosive players. We're lacking that a little bit. And that's a problem. Mount doesn't solve. Mount doesn't solve that problem. He doesn't change that because he's not a winger. Are there different solutions? Maybe. Something that we did sort of mention before the international break was the idea of Mbeumo on the left. We saw this against Spurs and he played very well. It gives us a winger over there. Could Mount now come to the right? Possibly. I think Mount's a very versatile player. I think he's good at shifting into different positions. He's played on the right in his career before. Maybe this could work. Maybe this could work. Because you've got a winger over here with Mbeumo. You've got a winger over here with Ahmad. You've got Mount and Bruno sort of linking capabilities. You've got a lot of players that could sort of interchange in there. You can imagine these three actually having a great time, sort of like bouncing off each other with their movements. So one comes towards, one goes past, and so on. That could be quite a fun solution. I'd like to hear what you guys think about that. Mount maybe playing on the right for a couple of weeks and Mbeumo going to the left. What do we think of that? One question for you, AJ. Are you not worried about Martinez coming back broken? So many players are finished after doing their ACL. People are excited, but I'm honestly worried. Hope I'm wrong. I am worried. I think I'm expecting, right? I think Lisandro Martinez will come back and he will be the same confident guy that he's always been. I think he'll be the same aggressive player that he's always been. I think on the ball, he'll still be calm and clever and cute with his passes. I think he'll still be an excellent progressive player. I think he'll be able to move the ball through the lines when he's up to match speed. I have a slight question about his turning. He is a player who likes to bring people close to him. And then at the last second, he sort of like spins out of trouble. I'm a little bit worried about that. Because the second you start damaging any of your ligaments anywhere, then turning a lot can be a problem on the joints, on the ligament. I'm a little bit worried about that. Does he lose some of that ability to sort of roll people, to turn people, to beat people? Maybe. And then the other thing would be, defensively. Has he lost that yard of pace? Has he lost that agility? For me, he's never been the best wide defender in the world, out wide in a 1-versus-1. If he's now lost a bit of pace and agility, that's a problem. If people are dribbling at him and he can't turn with them, then yeah, there's definitely something to be worried about. I'm not expecting sort of an immediate return. I think for now, it will be Luke Shaw keeping his place because Luke Shaw's played well. I think he's had a good start to the season. He's been consistent with his performances and his availability, which is always the biggest thing with him. So there's not a need to rush Lisandro Martinez back in. I'm a little bit worried, but I'm also very excited because as much as it could be a problem, it also could be great for us as well. We're taking better care of players, so I think he'll be good. Imagine Shaw playing for us regularly. Fair point. Fair point. I think the lack of games helps us as well. What do you think playing the United way, United DNA means? First of all, it's winning. Right, that's the most important thing, ultimately. The United way is to win matches. Not in the past decade, but prior to that, that was the United way. The United DNA is to win football matches. But I do think there's a way of doing it. I think there's a way of doing it. I think speed's important. I think United fans want quicker football than what a lot of other clubs do. You know, I think Arsenal a couple of seasons ago, City probably 4 or 5 years ago, very slow football. Very slow, methodical, picking your moment to play through a team. I don't think that suits United. I think United's quicker. I think it's faster. It's people taking people on. It's exciting. It's wide players. It's width. It's wingers dribbling at people, taking people on, getting a ball into the box. It's that sort of play for me, more than the slow breaking down of a block. I think it's sharper, quicker, which, in a way, Amorim is trying to do, and I think Ten Hag tried to do that as well. Ten Hag tried to lean into that quicker style of football. Amorim's doing it right now in a slightly different way, with the more direct approach, the longer approach. But, you know, I think we've got some players that look United to me. You know, I think Mbeumo is a United player. I think Cunha's arrogance and swagger is as well. For me, we need another winger at the club. You know, we've got two. I keep saying it. We've only got two wingers, senior wingers, which is a problem. I don't think it has to be counter-attacking, as Ant says. It's just quick. And there is a difference. There is a difference between the two. It doesn't have to be sit in a low block and pounce on the break all day, but quick football. And I think that's what we are trying to achieve. It's just difficult getting there. Almost our methods of getting there perhaps have been a little bit off. If Mount plays right and Mbeumo left, then we will have runners in behind in both flanks. Ahmad down the right and Mbeumo on the left. We will have two-way threat, but if that makes sense. Yeah, completely. I completely agree. I think it's a nice balance for us. I really do. I think the blend of profiles becomes quite nice. I'm sort of looking at it and trying to find the obvious reason why you wouldn't do it. Can someone let me know in the chat? Looking at this sort of solution that we've come up with here, what's wrong with it? Why would you look at it and go, we can't do that? What's the obvious problem? I guess Mbeumo being out of position isn't ideal, considering he has started the season as probably our best player. It's not ideal to move him away from the right towards the left. It also disrupts that connection with Ahmad, which I guess would be concerning. Maybe that's a reason you would look away from it. But I think we saw against Spurs how effective he can still be. Quick deliveries down the left were a bit of a game changer for us against Spurs, to be honest. We looked for a lot of early crosses. And Mbeumo is very useful for that. I guess the question a little bit is going to be about the speed of play becoming a bit of a problem without Šeško. Because we've seen even at the best of times, sometimes we get ourselves into the final third, we whip a ball into the box. Sometimes we play so quick that the striker isn't even there and the numbers haven't got up with the move. Is there a concern that that's going to be even worse without Šeško? Because if you play Cunha, if you play Xerxes, they don't break their neck to get into the box. So is there a concern that rapid football, fizzing the ball across the box, and we're going to have no one there? Maybe that's a problem. We got Bish in the chat with the super chat. Also, a lovely little profile picture. We were renowned for blistering counterattacks and playing to the final kick, hence Fergie time. We used to be able to play lots of different styles. I think that's a good point as well, that last comment about different approaches to a game. I think the great thing under Fergie was that we could play in different ways. I think stuff like heart and going to the final kick, for me, is the bare minimum. The bare minimum for any football team. I think particularly at United, I think you're spot on with that. But I agree. It's that quick stuff. It's almost a little bit frantic, but always like we're in control of the chaos. And I think that's what we've lost a little bit. We've lost the control of the chaos. Sometimes it's just chaos these days. I think we need to get that control back over it as well. But thank you very much for the super chat. And guys, you beat me to it again. Loads of love hearts in the chat for Bish, please, and thank you. Massive gap in the midfield. Yeah, a problem that we have in this system regardless. Right, we know in the 3-4-3 we do sometimes lack players in there. The thing I like about Mount here is he could drop in as an extra. So you could see, Bruno pushes high on the left. Mount can come in a little bit deeper and form that midfield three. and Mbeumo could push onto the last line. I quite like that. Quite like that. I think it reduces their goal threat, as cutting inside and shooting will be on their weaker foot. That's quite a good comment, actually. That's a very good comment, particularly with thinking Mbeumo, which is weird to say because he's played on the left once and scored against Spurs. But I get your comment. It's a very good point. We associate a lot of our goals at the moment with cutting in from wide and then bending or crossing. Mbeumo couldn't do that from here as effectively, and Mount couldn't do it from here as effectively as well, which is a really nice comment. I like that. That almost is where we often get this problem. Is it just a United thing? I don't know. But we often get this problem. We had it a couple of years ago when we were really trying to find solutions to some of our problems. Every time you come up with a solution, another problem just pops up and like, hi. It feels like this balance to me, for me, makes us more balanced across the board. Width on both sides, wingers on both sides, runners, people that can pass in the middle, the ability to overload midfield. Sure, great. But then, like you've pointed out there, when you then get to the final third and that final action, perhaps now players aren't in comfortable zones, which potentially leads to a lack of goals. So we've solved a problem in terms of team balance, but now perhaps we've reduced some of our goal threat, which we don't want to be doing. So that's a very good point. I think the main issue is we lack control regardless of any player we put in the field, or at least our starting 11. Yeah, and that's a squad building problem. It's something I mentioned with the idea of Semenyo. Now, it's different with wingers, of course. You expect your wingers to be aggressive. But the idea of signing Semenyo, I like it a lot. I think it's difficult, but I like it. My concern is he is another player who is very direct, like he shoots a lot, a bit like Cunha. You can only have so many of those players in your team. Bruno likes to be forward-thinking. Mbeumo's forward-thinking. Cunha's forward-thinking. Ahmad's forward-thinking. You can only have so many players that do that. You do need that blend. The players that are a bit more crafty and slow down sometimes. We lack it. We just don't have it. I think Bruno's developing. You know, I think he's getting better at it. Credit to him. But naturally, we still lack that player who controls it a bit more. And that goes back to the comment about the centre-backs from Amorim. Trying to get the centre-backs to become that. Which I think is going to require recruitment. You know, I don't think the current bunch can do it to the level that Amorim perhaps wants, which is a bit of a problem. Casemiro could play alongside Mount and put Cunha up front for a few matches. Oh, Simon, by the way, I meant to say earlier, happy birthday for earlier in the week. I hope you had a good one, my friend. Are you talking about Mount potentially sort of dropping into a midfield too? Is that what you're suggesting there? If Bruno can do it, you'd think Mount can do it. He's got the intensity, he's got the work rate and things like that. Yeah, possibly. My voice is going. I don't know why. My voice is going. I've got to record after this. Not looking good. By the way, whilst you're here, if you are enjoying the stream, I know we've got reduced numbers because everyone's bored of the international break. But if you are enjoying it, if you could please leave a like on the stream, it would be greatly appreciated. It helps the channel so much. I am so grateful. It's been a real dip the past few weeks, but I am so grateful to those of you that have continued to support the channel, that have kept watching videos, kept liking videos and streams. I really do appreciate you guys. So if you do enjoy it, drop a like on the stream and videos. It helps a lot. So does subscribing. Subscribing helps as well. And if you want to go one step further, getting your notifications on means you don't miss an upload or a stream. So any of that would be amazing. I'd be incredibly grateful. Licha controls games. And that's why we're excited for him to come back. Should he come back to the level that we're hoping he can? Because, yeah, he is a player who can control the tempo, control the speed, control the ball. We're hoping for that. We need new midfielders to plug any gaps. Without doubt. Without doubt. January, I'm not sure it will happen. Summer, we need it. We need two. I said it last summer. Last summer I said, please go and sign us 2 central midfielders. We got 0. So this summer we really need 2 as a minimum, to be honest. We really need 2. I'm counting on Mbeumo not getting injured during the African Cup of Nations too. Yeah, hopefully not. For his sake, for United's sake, for everyone's sake. Hopefully not. Alex, good morning to you, mate. How are you? Good to see you, mate. International break is over, mate. We're back. We're back. Gotta say, now you mention it, I don't know if it's the algorithm or what, but I am subscribed and I still haven't been getting recommended your videos or streams as much as I used to. I think I think it's been a problem for a lot of people. Views have crashed recently. Like, I'm broke, sort of crashed. It's been a difficult month. I think it's just because of the international break, sort of United have almost lost a bit of relevance over the past 2 weeks. So I think content sort of won't be pushed to you as much by YouTube as what it would normally be. I'm hoping that's the case. I think a win against Everton will sort of kickstart us again, hopefully, and we'll be winning, we'll be positive, people will be excited by United again, and hopefully we'll be back in those recommended boxes. That's the dream. That's the plan. That's what I'm hoping for. If not, I can't eat this month. Alex in the chat, by the way, with the 2-year membership. Time flies. 2 years of streaming. 2 years of streaming. And by the way, guys, for those of you that don't know, we didn't have memberships from the start. But Alex was literally in the very first stream that we ever did. Like, I don't know how many subscribers we had at the time. I don't know how many it was. But Alex was there. It was right at the end of a season. I can't think what year it would have been. But Alex was there from the very first stream. He is an absolute legend of this community. He's an icon. The central midfield rebuild will define Amarim's success, his era, almost, it feels like. And it sort of feels like we've said that for a long time about a lot of different managers, but I think it feels more true than ever right now. We sort of have to address it. There's sort of no other choice. We've got to go and address it. We need midfielders. We've needed them for a long time. Hopefully this summer we get it right. There's so many right now. Like, even if we miss out on our first 3 midfield targets, there's like another 20 beneath that which are good enough to come in and do a lot of the jobs that we need. It's quite exciting. It's quite exciting this year. We would have been third, assuming we won our last 2 matches. And that's why I was disappointed before the international break, because I felt they were quite winnable. They were quite winnable. Ultimately, we look at the results, though, and it's just nice to see that end of the red streaks, right? It's nice to see that has stopped. 5 games unbeaten. The comment I kept making before the international break was it just feels like the drama's been reduced. You know, those first weeks of the season after Grimsby, it felt like days before Amarim was going to be sacked. City was a bad one. Brentford was a bad one. It was crisis every other week. Literally every other week. It's nice that it's settled a little bit. And I've said this before, it's not perfect. It doesn't mean that United are back. It doesn't mean we're on fire or anything like that. It just feels like it's settled. It just feels like it's settled. And I think when the storm settles a little bit, that's when you can start to build things. And I think that's what we're seeing from United. And in terms of wanting to build things, it's a nice set of fixtures to try and do that. It's not straightforward. It's not straightforward. I don't think a David Moyes team is ever easy to play against. Crystal Palace away. Palace are a good team. Very good team. Very well set up, very well drilled. Got a lot of seriously good talent that they're probably going to lose, unfortunately. But that'll be difficult. West Ham and Wolves look like the easy ones. Easy ones. You know, we say there's no easy Premier League games. You look at West Ham and Wolves and would expect results. But even there's managerial changes, so who knows? And then Bournemouth will be very difficult. Very tough side. But I can't help but think we can be looking here and going, I want us to go from 5 games unbeaten to 10 games unbeaten. I want us to find 3 wins in here, 11 or 12 points in here. I think that's reasonable. And I think if we can do that, we can find ourselves in a lovely spot. A lovely, lovely spot. Like, that table could look very nice just before Christmas. It could look beautiful. It could look beautiful. Yes, we've got some problems to solve, as we've discussed. You know, I guess we didn't come to a final... Try that again. I guess we didn't come to a final conclusion on the striker. I think for me, I don't want to do it, but I'm gonna. I think I'd push Cunha in up front. It's tricky. There's 2 solutions I like. I like the one that Chad had earlier. Chad mentioned, I can't remember his front 3, but he mentioned the idea of Cunha up front, let's say Mbeumo Let's put Boom on the left again, just for the sake of it. No, let's not. I'm losing my mind. Let's put Boom on the right. Could Bruno be pushed to the front three with Cobby coming in? It's possible. It's possible. In terms of United changing and sort of evolving and being unpredictable, Cobby does give us a different way of playing. Now, it doesn't have to be every match. It doesn't have to be every match. For example, the Bournemouth one, perhaps you drop Bruno back in deeper again. But I would quite like to see this at some point. I'd quite like to see this team. The reason I was hesitant over the orientation of Mbeumo and Bruno is because of the idea of wingers on both sides that we always try and look for. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'd like to see it at some point. The more likely solution to me feels like Mount coming into the front three. And then there's just that conversation of what side. If Mount comes in on the right, I quite like it. And Mbeumo left, Ahmad right, wingers both sides, overloads in midfield, runners on the last line, all over the place, left footers over here, couple of right footers over here. Lovely. This balance, not quite as strong in my opinion, although I still think these three close to each other can cause a lot of problems. Dorgu could be used as that sort of isolation runner, if you like. And we do get Mbeumo and Ahmad close to each other, which is always a positive when they're on it. I think we saw a couple of games before the break where they weren't quite as sharp, where it didn't look quite as natural. But prior to that, we saw them clicking and we saw them playing very well. So I certainly don't want to give up on this idea of these two together. I think they're the two best solutions. There is always the Xerxes option as well, if I can find him. There he is. There is always the option of bringing Xerxes in, but I just don't think Amorim will do it because he just doesn't seem to like him. He doesn't seem to like him very much. So I don't think it'll be... Xerxes. All I've ever asked for are incremental improvements. I have always felt this to be a full 3-year rebuild. And I think we are... I think we're starting to see that. I think we are starting to see slow, gradual improvements. It would be nice if they could speed up a little bit. Just a little bit. But yeah, I think we are moving in the right direction. Oh, and by the way, I've just seen that message. I hope your dad and your entire family are all okay, my friend. That must be a very difficult time. Sorry, I just saw that. Hope everything is well. We have seen that Cobby has the talent. Need to see improve that he has the grit, determination, and desire now. Not showing it so far. The Cobby one's a weird one. It's a weird one. There's almost a divide. It feels to me like half the fan base thinks that Cobby's not intense enough, physical enough, and that sort of thing. And then the other half is almost like Amorim's not giving him an opportunity at all. And Amorim is robbing us of this amazing talent. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Cobby does need to show more intensity. I think he does need to show a bit more work rate in certain games. I think he does need to, bite into the tackle and things like that more. Yeah, sure he does. But I also think we are being robbed of seeing a glorious talent because I seriously think he's fantastic. And I think he's one of those talents, if used properly, you don't notice his lack of athleticism and things like that. I think if you get Cobby playing to his strengths, you realise how fantastic he is and how unique he is as a player. So I think it's both. Cobby does need to do more, but I think he needs to be given more opportunities. Alex mentioned it there. Cobby's probably low on confidence. You break into the Manchester United first team, you become a regular, you start every week with some of these huge names, you score a goal to win the FA Cup. You play for England in the Euros. You play in a Euros final at such a young age. And then all gone. All taken away from you. Now you can't get into the team at all. You're struggling for 10 minutes a week. So that's got to hurt his confidence. It's also going to affect his sharpness. He's not match sharp. He's not up to speed. It's the same for someone like Ugarte as well, to be fair. Not up to speed. We all claim that the Premier League is the most difficult league in the world. It's the best league in the world. Yet then expect players to be able to thrive for 10 minutes a week. We can't have it both ways. We can't have it both ways. So, as always, it's both. The manager needs to do more and Cobby needs to do more. Quite a simple solution for me. Cobby needs to kick it up a gear and Amorim needs to give him the opportunity to show himself. Simple as that. And I think that's part of what we've been talking about today, about the next step. for United. We've come this far. We're 5 unbeaten. Lovely. We're solid. We've secured ourselves. What's the next step now? Where do we go now? Is the long ball the approach for the next 6 weeks or not? Or should we now be evolving and changing into playing a different style? That's the question. Question is, can we afford to carry Cobby until he is up to speed? Maybe if we can build a decent early lead in a game. It's a fair point. I think my counterpoint would be, I don't think you're just carrying him. You know, I don't think it's like Cobby's suddenly useless. You're still getting yourself a phenomenal standard of player. Cobby's worst football is good football. That's the nice thing about such a talent. But I do get the point of what you're saying. It's a man management thing Amorim needs to work on. Yeah. We're not helped by the lack of games. No European football, knocked out the Carabao Cup, no FA Cup football till January. We're not playing much. You know, we've all felt it as fans, right? We sit there all week just looking at the calendar, just waiting for the weekend. This time we've got to wait till bloody Monday, and we've got to do it a lot this month. So, yeah, the lack of games doesn't help. For Cobby, for Xerxes, for Ugarte, this probably feels like the longest season ever. Because there's no matches, they're not getting any minutes. It must suck, to be honest. But that's part of it. That's sort of the problem that we found ourselves in. It is up to Amorim to manage that, to manage the players. And it's also up to the players to sort of prove that they deserve that place in the team. Hopefully, both those things happen. Hopefully, all 3 players improve and prove themselves. And hopefully, all 3 of them get given the opportunity as well. I think it's quite simple. Killing a game early and giving Cobby minutes would help. It absolutely would. And like I said, there's games coming up where you think we can do it, potentially. I don't know. I like to be a little bit cautious as a United fan, but there are games coming up. In terms of Everton, our preview will be on Monday. Let me just reiterate that. We will be doing a Monday morning stream. Normally we're Tuesday and Friday. Next week will be Monday and Friday. Let me say that again. Monday, 11 a.m, same time as today. Monday. Friday. That's when the streams are next week. So Monday, we will be looking at Everton. We'll be looking at some of the tactical things that they do. And as always, myself and all of you will be going through the United 11, trying to figure out how we should set up, how we can hurt Everton, which players deserve a start, the dynamics we want to see, the approach we want to see. And hopefully we come up with an 11 and an idea and a tactic to beat Everton. And then, of course, Monday night, we enjoy a lovely win, is the plan. And then Tuesday, of course, we'll break down the game in a video. So that's why the structure's a little bit different next week. And we might have a few of those coming up on the 8th and on the 15th as well. But I'll let you guys know as that happens. Anyway, is there anything else that we wanted to discuss for today? Guess this fella. Getting the job done at the moment. It's not always pretty, but right now he is getting the job done, and that has to continue. We have to get better as well. There's only so long that the results sort of mask it. The unbeaten run is great, but at the end of the day, it's a bare minimum. There's also an expectancy with the way that you play at United, and that's sort of the next thing that we need to build towards. Can he do it? I hope so. I really, really hope so. I hope he can, but we're sort of just stuck now. And we have been for the last 2 weeks in that moment of, let's wait and see. I don't want Cobby to miss the World Cup. If he does, he would be on bad terms with us. I see him as Bruno's replacement. Yeah, I agree. I think he will miss the World Cup. And I said earlier in the season, if Cobby misses the World Cup, I'm hammering him out. Because I think Cobby's that good, and I'm a massive England fan as well. I don't think he's going to make the squad, unfortunately. England have got a lot of good central midfielders, and a lot of them are playing regular football right now. How many points do you reckon United can get in the next 5 games, AJ? The target for me... Oh, by the way, there's immediately another comment, by the way. Have you given a prediction on how many points we should get? I think if we're serious, right? If we're being serious, I've said United should set out this season with the aim of top 5 of Champions League football, or of being that sort of level of team, that end of the table. Particularly with no European football, lack of matches, we're fresh, we're fit, we've got more time to prepare. We should be top 4 or 5 this season. If we're serious about that, you've got to beat Everton. especially at Old Trafford. You've got to beat West Ham at Old Trafford, and you've got to go away and beat Wolves. League table doesn't reflect everything, but they're all in the bottom half. 2 of them in the bottom 3. You've got to beat West Ham and Wolves. Everton's tough, of course it is. Of course it is. Sometimes you slip up against them, but we should be going and beating Everton. That should be the aim. We should be looking to beat them. So that's 9 points. That's 9 points. Palace. Palace is tricky. I think 3 wins, 2 draws, 11 points. Don't feel too bad. 11 or 12, I would say. 11, 12, 13. That's the region we should be aiming for. Now, unfortunately, we are this awful football club which has the habit of getting your hopes up and then crushing you, right? So we could lose all 5 of these. We could lose all 5 of these because that's what United do in the past decade. It's what we do. We make life difficult. We lose us the second you think we're good. I think the expectation is, should we call it target 12, expectation 10? So I would love us to strive for 12, and I think it's doable. I think we maybe fall closer to 10. Maybe, for example, you draw with Palace, you lose to Bournemouth, just as an example. I think that would be okay. I think that would be okay. We'd be in a half-decent place. I think the manner of the results and the performances matters as well. For example, if the one loss is a terrible one, like a 5-0, ouch. Or if all of the wins are just 95th minute winners from a set piece, then you think, yeah, I like the points, but it's not really sustainable. We're not going anywhere with this. So the manner of the results, of course, is always key. Absolutely key. But at the end of the day, it's a results business, right? And we want points on the table, points on the board. I think now's the time to do that. 1:30 a.m. to 3:30/4 for these Monday match days. I do not envy that. I do not envy that at all. There's been a level of resilience in the last few games drawn which would have been lost in the past. Yeah, I agree. I think it's the bare minimum. I will say that much. I think the bar has been dragged down to the floor, where we now celebrate a draw away from home, whereas before we'd be disappointed with a draw away from home. So I think the bar is low. I think we've done that to ourselves. But you still got to make sure you go over that bar. It doesn't matter the height of it. You got to get over it. And there has been improvement recently, like you said. And I keep saying this recently. If you can't play well, draw. If you can't play well, make sure you draw. I think that's the bare minimum. And that sort of seems to have been how we've been approaching away games at the moment. Hopefully this is the month where we can see a bit of change, particularly away at Wolves. That's one way you'd like to see a bit of style to the performance as well. But things like resilience, away from home, that leadership, the experience, they are all crucial things. It's a huge spell for United. There is no doubting that. If, this is the biggest if I've ever heard in my life, but if United can win these 5 games in a row, then we are in a phenomenal place. Granted, we would be about to lose some good players, Ahmad and Bumo, Mazraoui, but we would be in a phenomenal place. And it feels feasible, it feels possible that we could win these 5 games. So that has to be the aim. And, by Christmas, let's still be in touch with the top 4. Let's still be right there. Let's make sure by the 15th of December, 16th, whatever, make sure you're still within 1 point of the top 4. Or above it, like that'd be nice. Above 4th would be lovely. But that's sort of the aim for me for the next month. To continue with the results, with the performance there as well. That's what I'd like to see. Performances aren't going to be perfect all of a sudden. It doesn't happen that quickly. But I would like to see just an increase. We spoke about it earlier. Gradual improvements. So let's just keep moving our way forward. Slowly moving our way forward. Let's keep improving, keep progressing, keep evolving. Get a better team. Get points behind us, which helps confidence. And just see where it takes us, basically. I think it's that sort of season. Glasner and Iraola are good tactical managers. Yeah, that's why I think 15 points is very tough. But I think it's doable. I do think it's doable. We have to caveat every performance with the fact our midfield is just not right. I think that's hampering us performing to our true potential. Yeah, I agree. The problem I keep having with that is if the manager wasn't so stubborn, we could find different midfield solutions. But that's a conversation for another day. When do you think the gap will loosen? Imagine being third one day and being 12th on the other. It's not good for my health. Yeah, that's actually a great comment. Fourth is on 19 points. 12th is on 16. So obviously goal difference, but that's a 3-point swing. That is crazy. That is crazy. I said it earlier. I think game week 14, 15, the table really is a good reflection of where teams are at. And then particularly, like even more so, mid-January, that's when I think you know where you are. You know if you're competing top 4 this year, whether you're top 6 this year, if you're a title challenger, if you're in a relegation battle. Mid-January, really you know where you are. Soon, though, in a few weeks, I think we'll have a pretty good idea. A pretty good idea. Yeah, 15 points. I know it seems ludicrous right now. I think it's doable. I do think it's doable. We do have a fresher squad compared to a lot of teams. I think still, you know, individual quality of the front three, we got better than all of these teams. And that's why I feel that we can win all of them. Because we've got players that can win football matches, players that can break game states, that can score worldies, that can create out of nothing. We've got more of those players than each of the next 5 opposition. So for that reason, United can win all 5 of these games, but it is easier said than done ultimately. Anyway, I think that is everything that I wanted to discuss for today. Like I said, a bit of a different Friday stream. Monday will be the next stream, and that is when we will be previewing the Everton game. Again, going through how United can set up and hopefully win that match. In terms of content this weekend, I'm looking to do videos. But it will depend on whether the ideas are there or not. It's been a long 2 weeks, right? There's not been a lot going on, particularly off of the back of 2 pretty dry draws. So it's been a little bit difficult for content recently. It's been a little bit difficult for tactical ideas and fun things to talk about. But if I can find the ideas, then sure, we'll upload this weekend. So hopefully some videos coming over the next few days. If you do have ideas that you would like to see, and also that you think other people would like to see, message me or head over to the Discord server and drop a message in there. Whatever you fancy. I'm happy to do videos on it. But yeah, that's more for another day. For today, I think we are finished there. So thank you guys very much, as always, for the support and getting involved. Like I said, particularly during this sort of hard moment for the channel, I really do appreciate you guys that have stuck by, watched a lot of videos, been commenting and liking and all that stuff. It does mean a lot to me. Thank you for the stream today, as always, for being very busy and active in the chat. Thank you to everyone that liked the stream, subscribed to the channel, gifted memberships, renewed memberships, left super chats, any of that stuff. You're all heroes, like absolute legends. But I think that's everything. So we're going to stop there. Thank you guys very much for watching. I will see you for another stream on Monday. Remember that, Monday morning, we will be back with another stream. But until then, I'm out of here. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, let's see if we get the timing right this time. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you all in the next one.